counting ballots that arrive after Election Day raise significant constitutional and statutory issues. So that issue may not go away prior to Election Day, but it may come up again on election night and post-election, in the post-election period. So the question is, what's going to happen on Election Day? So Judicial Watch is concerned about obviously the possibility of voter fraud. If you have not voted, you should think about voting in person. I wouldn't rely on the mails at this time. It's, by the time you listen to this or see this, you're really risking having your vote not counted if you drop it into the mail. If you want to vote absentee ballot still and not vote in person, check with your state to see if you can drop it off in person, where you kind of you provide an absentee ballot to a drop box or bring it into an office somewhere. Other opportunities obviously are just to vote in person. So I've been warning everybody that the best way to ensure your vote is counted is to vote in person. Practically speaking now, the only way to ensure your vote is counted is to vote in person. As I've been telling you, the left is through big tech censoring these concerns that I've been raising and others have been raising about the possibility of voter fraud. But it's going to be a challenge because the courts have refused to intervene adequately in certain key states to stop the rules from being changed in a way that will undermine confidence in the elections, where in North Carolina and Pennsylvania, they have extended the period of time that ballots will be allowed to come in and be counted. So in theory, the best way to count ballots is everyone votes, in my view, on Election Day, and they count who voted on Election Day. Now, I know the rules are different. You got absentee ballots. Okay, well, then count the absentee ballots that get there by Election Day. But the idea, like you have in many states, that you count ballots that arrive after Election Day is completely at odds with election integrity and invites fraud. And that's why most states don't count ballots that arrive after Election Day. So what does the left want to do? They want to change the rules. And they've done it through a variety of ways, mostly through judicial activism. And in the case of North Carolina and Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court essentially has not stepped in. And I was all excited this week, and I guess I'll segue into the good news about Amy Coney Barrett being appointed or being confirmed and sworn in as the newest member of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. It's a wonderful development for the rule of law and the Constitution. We were all excited. I was honored to be invited on behalf of everyone watching, on behalf of Judicial Watch, to the White House to watch Justice Coney Barrett being sworn in. She took the oath at the White House. Obviously, President Trump was there, and Justice Thomas, administered the oath to Justice Barrett. And Justice Barrett gave a great presentation. I encourage you to go back and look at it, where she soundly rejected the idea of justices imposing their beliefs through their judicial decision making. She said that's the last thing they should be doing. It's at odds with their oath, and they need to just apply the law and not pursue their personal objectives through their judicial office. That's what politicians are supposed to do, not judges. And we don't want the judges to be politicians, and she soundly rejected it. And as I said at the time, Justice Barrett's confirmation is a great victory for the U.S. Constitutions. Americans agree that Justice Barrett agree with her that the Supreme Court should apply the law as it is written and leave the legislating to the people's elected representatives. And we are grateful that the Senate, rejected the left's attempts to destroy her. They attacked her religion, they attacked her family, the usual. And now we have a much more solid conservative majority on the Supreme Court. The left says it's 6-3. It may be 6-3 on some issues, but it will probably be 5-4 in a lot of others, depending how Chief Justice Robert operates. And this is how Barrett explained her approach to the Constitution. You hear originalist, textualist, all these words to describe conservative judicial decision making and their approach to applying the Constitution. But she really explained it quite well. I interpret the Constitution as a law, that I interpret its text as text, and I understand it to have the meaning that it had at the time the people ratified it. So that meaning doesn't change over time, and it's not up to me to update it or infuse my own policy views into it. So how can you not help but be excited to have someone like that being added to the bench? And she has a demonstrated record of being conservative on these issues, so it's not like she's just saying this to get approval by conservatives. But as I pointed out in a statement, her first order of business is to deal with the leftist attempts to use the courts to undermine election security. So they had these two emergency cases come up this week, both in Pennsylvania and North Carolina. And essentially the court refused to do anything about, as I said, these issues, these cases which essentially changed the rules in the counting of ballots after the election. And Justice Barrett declined to participate in the decision making. Now, I don't know whether there was an issue that her vote would have mattered. It's not clear because they were just figuring out whether to take up the case and whether to act. But in my view, it's terribly disappointing that after moving heaven and earth, President Trump did, the Senate did, millions of Americans, Judicial Watch did, to get her appointed to the Supreme Court. She was confirmed within 30 days of her name being announced by President Trump. Really, really tremendous work all around. And then there are these two major emergency cases on election integrity, and she declines to participate. Disappointing. And this is where the left knows what they're doing, in my view. They threaten, cajole, warn that the court's going to be upended and packed if they don't get what their way. Republicans will regret putting her on the court, telling her she'd be the worst person in the world if she doesn't recuse herself from decisions tied to President Trump, which is completely lawless. And what happens? She gets on the court and defers on immediately participating in two key cases. Now, the court issued a statement saying that she didn't have time to review one of the cases. I just don't buy that. I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. This was a decision to not participate in a case that she could have quickly gotten up to speed on. After all, they were emergency cases, so it wasn't like there had been oral argument and things like this. This is people running to the court at midnight, more or less. I want justice. And she refused to participate. So as a result, there'll be more election chaos on election day because not only her failure to take action here, but other members of the Supreme Court. Now, can some of this still be fixed? Yes, potentially. In Pennsylvania, it's not a done deal that they'll be counting ballots after election day that arrive after election day. I don't even know technically if they can count ballots after election day the way the law is written. But certainly ballots that arrive after election day, counting ballots that arrive after election day raise significant constitutional and statutory issues. So that issue may not go away prior to election day, but it may come up again on election night and post-election, in the post-election period. So there's no guarantees here. So, I suspect she'll come back and participate later, but, we've got to be sure that the elections we know what they are going into them, the rules are. And it's disappointing that she didn't take this step. That doesn't mean that she'll be a bad justice, but I'm just saying it's disappointing. So I kind of, I hate to have to send out a tweet, which I did on this, criticizing her inaction. And she's been on the bench 2 days, right? And I had to send out, but that's what we do. That's what I do. I can't help it, we have to call it when we see it, right? And it's, I see people were defending her and saying, oh, she didn't have time. It was the right thing to do. She could have participated. She could have participated.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.